Good afternoon. I'm Danny P. Smith, sports editor of the Starkville Daily News. This is Robbie Faulk, our high school beat writer, and this is this week's edition of the Digital Express, talking high school football. One more week, Robbie. I tell you what, the season always flies by, and before you know it, you're at this point of the year. Christmas is right around the corner, and football championship weekend is this weekend, and you know West Point is in a familiar position, playing for another state championship, and you know you can throw out the D word, dynasty, because that's what West Point's become. They've always been a state championship success over the years, and when you talk about winning 3 straight state championships, going for a 4th, dynasty surely fits this situation.
Yeah, it hasn't happened much. You know, when I was a kid, my school, Winston Academy, won 4 straight, and that was a big deal at the time. And now South Pinola's done it, and now Jackson Prep and West Point has a chance to join that conversation. And Coach Dodd Lee, the legendary coach at Picayune, at the press conferences that we were at earlier this week, said when he thinks of Mississippi high school football, he thinks of South Pinola and Bassfield that controlled 2A for so many years, and West Point, which is a team now that's chasing South Pinola for the most state titles ever in the state of Mississippi, and they got a chance to win number 4 in a row, which is pretty special. And I asked Coach Chambliss about that at the press conference, about just what it means to be in that conversation with South Pinola and Bassfield, and he talked about just how humbling it was to be at a place like West Point, a place that he called his hometown. The people there are blue collar, they fight for everything they've got, and they've become the team in Class 5A, and they got a chance to win it once again. It doesn't really matter who the guys are. It doesn't matter if it's Marcus Murphy or Brandon Harris. Every year they just seem to reload and be right back in the state championship picture.
Right. And Chris Chambliss, me and him go way back. I covered his Caledonia team when he was the head coach at Caledonia back in the 90s, actually, and he's come a long way in his coaching career, and as you say, he's a West Point guy. Found a way back home, and became the head coach there, and the success that he's had. I don't know what his record is. It can't be. The winning percentage has got to be off the charts with him. I mean, I would like to see his record. He may know, he may not know, but it's just amazing the job he's done over the years at West Point.
And he was in a good spot. West Point's always been a pretty good program, but he's just kind of elevated it, and it's not real complex. They have a system in place from junior high all the way up to high school. All the kids know what is expected of them, and they're going to be a gritty football team. They're going to win with defense and running the football, and he'll line up under center and run an I formation until you stop it. And it's people talk about that being outdated, but it's really not. I mean, it still works, and he's proven it. And now he's getting into the conversation of some of the great high school coaches that have been in the state, and that's something to be said there. He's got a great program, and like I said, he's just elevated it to where it has been with those great coaches in the past at West Point to what it is now.
When you speak of the running game, they've got 2 very good ones in Brandon Harris, and of course they've got Cannon. Both are over 1,000 yards rushing, and that's what they do. And this is what this game's going to be about, apparently, because Picayune likes to run the ball too. And both coaches kind of joked a little bit. I said we could be out of here in 2 hours Saturday night, because
which is a good thing for us.
Yeah, it's going to be a smash mouth, run the ball, stop me if you can type of game. So it's if you like good running games, this might be the game for you.
Yeah, Brandon Harris is carrying on that tradition of quarterback / running back at that position, getting the ball in his hands and allowing him to do some different things. They'll put some people in motion. Jimothy Mays and like Dantarius Cannon, like you said, they'll get them the ball too. They have other options, but Brandon Harris is playing, what I would call that Marcus Murphy role, what Marcus Murphy did so well for West Point for 3 or 4 years. He's kind of stepped into that role, and he wears number 2 like Marcus did, and he's been a great player for them the last few years. He was a big deal for him last season when they won that state championship, and he's going to be an important piece to what they do on Saturday.
Yeah, and defensively, I wrote a little piece on Tyron Orr this week, and I was looking at his 97 tackles, 27 and a half tackles for loss. Wow, that's a lot of. He's getting in the backfield a lot, and that he's the unquestionable leader of that defense.
Yeah, and he's just like Brandon's following Marcus's footsteps. He's following Cungus and Everett Cunningham and all those guys that have been such great West Point players over the years. it just seems like they do the same thing at linebacker and defensive line. They just continue to filter in guys that just step into roles, and he's kind of filled that role too. And, you know, like I mentioned, when you have a system in place and guys know what's expected of them, it's so easy to reload in high school football when you have those expectations already set and they kind of know what to do when they get into high school.
Yeah, and that community there supports their football. It's unlike anything else in Clay County. When you go to a game on Friday night at West Point, and you know they're the only team in our area pretty much. We've got some others bordering counties that are down there. It was tough to see Starkville and Choctaw County lose their games last week because we thought they had good chances to get there, but that's why you play the football game. You just never know how these things are going to shake out.
Yeah, you have to play all the way till Hattiesburg or wherever the state championship's going to be every year. I mean, you got to play every single Friday like it's your last. And West Point dodged a couple of bullets. They were in some tough ball games. The Lafayette game was a real battle, but they were able to get out of that one alive. And that's a team that's just weathered storms time and time again. Starkville and Choctaw County weren't able to do it, but you know, Danny, I just think this year has been one of the more remarkable seasons that we've seen in our area. To have 3 teams, whether it be for the Starkville Daily News area or for Daily Times Leader, when you have 3 teams playing for a North State Championship out of the 6 classifications, that says something. And then another team that played for a private school state championship. It was an unbelievable season in this area, and you can see the future's bright for sure. But now you were hitching our wagon to West Point, and they got a chance to win their 4th straight, and it should be a pretty fun weekend.
Yeah. Of course, college football is taking somewhat of a brief hiatus, unless you're playing in a conference championship this weekend. But of course, the rivalry games were just crazy over the weekend. Of course, the Egg Bowl had its crazy finish, but you know, Joe Moorhead retains his job for at least another year, or at least we think so, unless something develops that prevents that from happening. And Ole Miss made a decision to cut Matt Luke after 3 years. So some were surprised by that, but others thought it was time.
That was just a strange turn of events, wasn't it? We heard so much smoke, and you have to take that in our profession with a grain of salt. You can't report on every single tweet that you see from someone that's completely irrelevant. You can't talk about all these internet rumors. You have to find some substance. There wasn't a ton of substance there around Joe Moorhead, but there was a lot of smoke, and I think there is something to say about there being that much smoke around whether or not he would return next year. There was absolutely no smoke around Matt Luke. The administration had actually come out and really backed him, even when Keith Carter was hired as the athletic director.
Vote of confidence.
Yeah, I mean, the athletic director came out and said he's our guy next year. So for it to flip the way that it did, it was just incredible, and adds another notch to the belt of this rivalry. That's just the strange rivalry that is the Egg Bowl. And you know, it couldn't have ended any stranger than it did with the unsportsmanlike conduct and the missed extra point. And I don't think it's out of the question to say that Matt Luke has his job if that doesn't happen. I mean, 21-14, the man might still have his job. Yeah. That's how strange things can happen in this rivalry.
If they don't convert the 4th down at the end, and it does end that way, you just never know. I mean, you don't have the episode with the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty and all the bad publicity that came from that. But you know, we'll find out about Mississippi State's bowl destination this weekend. So stay tuned to all the Starkville Daily News and our social media ways of getting information to you guys, and we'll talk about that in future Digital Express. But until next time, I'm Danny P. Smith and Robbie Faulk. We'll see you next time.